Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of The Meeting Place. We are at episode 7 now, and if you're new here and this is the first episode you're listening to, the purpose of this podcast is to create some connection between students and campus at UTSC, because I know we all know who work at the university that it's kind of tough to be stuck at home during the COVID-19 pandemic. And we can't be on campus doing our regular jobs the same way we would normally do them. And you can't be on campus interacting with other students and staff members and the Department of Student Life. It's different. And so we're trying to find ways to adapt and to keep you connected to campus. So this podcast came from that idea. So 7 episodes in and still working on my editing skills. Having to listen to the sound of my own voice over and over again during the editing process is interesting because I'm sure there are many other people out there that also are shocked when they hear the sound of their own voice and you realize that's what I sound like to other people. It always sounds better in your own head, and I can confirm that during this editing process. It also makes me realize there's certain words in certain interviews that I say continuously. Like in my interview today, I just kept saying fantastic. And I don't think that's a regular word that I use that often, but I guess in this one particular interview, it became something I said all the time. So anyway, today's guest is Shonagh Crawford, who works on campus in the Academic Advising and Career Center. And Shonagh and I talk about how the center has had to adapt all their services to make them online and what the long-term impact of that will probably be. We also talk about the different things that her and her kids have been doing at home during the pandemic, like virtual dance classes, baking, and digital hangouts with friends, and movies like Star Wars and The Godfather come up briefly at the end. So here is my talk with Shonagh. So hello, Shonagh, my guest today. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing today, Jonathan?
I'm doing well. So let's talk about what you do at UTSC. You work in AA and CC, which is what everyone affectionately knows it as, but the full name, Academic Advising and Career Center. So let's talk about what you do there.
Okay. So I'm what's called the Resource Center Advisor at the AA and CC. Essentially, I'm responsible for the day-to-day flow of the center. So if you do come into the center, I'm one of the frontline support. I work with our wonderful students and some of my colleagues on the front, and just making sure everything is flowing, resources are good. So just everything the day-to-day needs of the center. Yeah. Gotcha.
So I imagine ANCC is a very busy office during the day. I imagine you have a lot of students coming in and out. Is it the type of office where there's a big ebb and flow where you have like seasonally it's very busy and then other times of the year it's less busy?
100%, Jonathan. So obviously September, we have lineups out the door, literally out our door.
Yeah.
And then, of course, at the beginning of every term, we're very high demand. And then near any deadlines is a very busy time for us as well. And then it can be super quiet. We do find Monday mornings are our quietest overall. Our students like to sleep in. I get it. But yeah, it is absolutely an ebb and flow kind of center. You've hit the nail on the head with that.
With deadlines, do you mean like paper deadlines or what type of deadlines are we talking about?
Academic deadlines primarily. So the deadlines for credit, no credit, dropping a course, and then around exams too. Just before exams, making some decisions, and then when exam results come in, absolutely the lineups get a little longer. But then also we're not just academics; we're career as well. Mm-hmm. So when deadlines for applying for post-grad courses, when those deadlines come in, it can be busy with resume reviews and personal statements and before summer job season as well. So there are different peaks for different areas of our center as well.
So I was never a student at U of T. So the whole credit, no credit thing is, not that it's a new concept. I just guess I didn't pay much attention when I was a student to that. But at UTSC, how does that work exactly? Is it program specific or is it kind of a standard across the university?
So credit, no credit is an option. You can, now I will say right now, the rules are a little bit different, but in general, credit, no credit is an option that students can take for non-program courses. And that's an important element. You can't normally do this for your program courses, but for breadth requirements and electives, you can opt that you say credit, no credit. So what that means is if you pass the course on your transcript, it'll say CR, or you get the credit. You've earned that credit. If you don't pass, it just says NCR, no credit. But what that means is it doesn't go against your GPA either way.
So yeah, the current environment, obviously quite different, and we'll definitely get into that quite a bit. But I imagine the credit, no credit is something that students would talk to academic advisors about. But what are some of the other services or things they might be coming to speak to the advisors about?
Oh, so all kinds of things. So it can be everything from helping them strategize on their course plan for their degree, because not every course is a straight line. There are some different ways that you can approach to the same end. It could be, what other things? Looking at their study skills. We can be helpful with that. On the academic side, it could be help with academic standing. So there's different things related to that, whether you've received notice that you're in jeopardy of going on probation, or possibly you are on probation and you want to get your grades up so you don't get suspended. So there's different things where they can help, but a lot of the time, the advisors are helping with course-related or program-related questions, but it can be anything on the academic side of the house that they can help with. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. It's so, yeah, there's clearly a lot of different services available to
Correct.
Students. So for any student who's listening who's never been to A and CC before, now you have a bit of a taste of what you can get on the academic side. Now, you mentioned with the career side, you can do resume reviews and things like that. I imagine there's like interview prep sessions as well. Yeah,
you can do a mock interview, and we've also been really looking at the different ways that people are being interviewed now. So it's not just your in-person one. And especially now, they're doing a lot more online interviews. So how do you prepare for that? How do you prepare for a phone interview, which is different again? So there's different nuances that you would need for those that our career strategists can assist with. Mm-hmm. And even though before you get to that stage, we have career counselors that can help you do some exploring on potential careers. What do I do when I graduate? Should I look for a job? Should I continue my education? So there's that element as well.
Yeah, and I think it's quite often that students don't know or they're not sure about what they want to do when they graduate. I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I'm well aware of the fact that many students change programs and change interests during the course of university. So I think what you're kind of saying, like, they don't have to be alone in that decision. They can get some advice from people who are well aware of the programs that are out there and the jobs that are affiliated with those programs, or the jobs that people with those degrees tend to go into.
Yeah, our career counselors and strategists really have their finger on the pulse of what the current employment environment looks like. And they're constantly researching different resources and different programs that are out there so that they're always current on what's available and what students might be interested in. I mean, I find it interesting. I have 2 kids of my own, and there's a good chance the jobs that they're doing don't exist yet.
Yeah, definitely.
Right?
That comes up quite a lot. I mean, and how many jobs that exist right now won't be jobs in 10, 15, 30 years, right? And
exactly.
You know, when you think about people who are just about to enter first year, even if you're graduating, the typical student age is, say, between 17 and 22, 23, but obviously we have students of all ages. But if you're 20 right now, you can do a career that exists right now until you're 30. And then by the time you're 50, there could be a whole new career path that doesn't even exist right now that you can jump into. Yeah. And so it's kind of wild to think that when I think back to like my parent or my grandparents' generation, where they stayed in the same trajectory maybe for their whole career. My grandfather was in insurance for like 50 years. That was, because that's what he was known for. And he just but it's a totally different world. Like I don't imagine I'll be in the exact same career path for my entire life. The world is changing quite rapidly, and so new jobs are popping up all the time. So it's great to hear that our career counselors are at their hand on the pulse of that. Now, you mentioned interview preparations and how there are many interviews these days are doing phone interviews or online interviews. And so right before we started recording, I was saying that I was doing my work study student interviews over Zoom. And it's fascinating the challenges that presents to students because if they don't have like a perfectly quiet space to go to, if their internet connection's not stable all the time, that's got to be difficult to do. Is that the type of thing that gets addressed at all? Do you know?
That would be the kind of thing that a student could ask, and they'll give them the different elements, even the quiet environment, even what to wear and how to sit and how to position your camera. So that the interviewer isn't looking up your nose or it's just
that has been a fascinating thing with the whole COVID-19 thing. The number of people who they have poor camera angles. Absolutely.
Yeah. There's been some very funny videos done on that, and people taking their computer to places probably you shouldn't join them. Yeah.
I've seen some of those, I imagine when you're doing a Skype or Zoom interview, wear pants, even if you don't think you're going to stand up in the interview, right? It's that type of thing sometimes people joke about, but it happens.
No, you know what? I have heard stories of interviewers that will at the end of the interview say, please stand up. I've heard that too. Dress for the interview. You might get away with wearing slippers, but wear proper pants.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or skirt.
I am a little, it's exciting for me that while I am working from home, I can wear jeans, which is, it might not be perfect for day-to-day work, but I don't think I'm breaking any strict dress codes, so it's still okay.
I think you're good.
So speaking of working from home, that's kind of the new dynamic with COVID-19 having changed how we do everything. It's changed how we do our jobs, and I imagine for a role like yours, where you mentioned you're very front line, you're dealing with people who are walking in and the resources they're getting. How does that change what you do day to day when you're not physically present in the space where you used to do your job all the time?
Right. It has been a challenge. I will say kudos to the staff of my center or the center, not my center, the center. They have pulled things together so quickly and so well. My job is answering the phone most of the days. So the first thing I learned was doing it through my home line was really not a great option because my call waiting started going off. So that was interesting. I now do it through my computer, so that's a non-issue. It has been challenging because I can't see the students, and that I'm so used to reading cues, like verbally, physically, that I'm solely going on verbal information. And so it can be challenging from, if I think they might have another question, when I see them in person, I can see it on their face that they have another question. But the other thing is that if they're upset, I'm used to being able to deal with that. Like it's just... all those little in-person things that you lose when you're only over the phone. And then the other thing is I hear their distractions in the background. So there was one person and their phone was pinging like crazy. I hear little kids in the background. I hear animals in the background, like all these things that are normally when they come in the center, the biggest distraction is the students behind them. So it's been an interesting challenge to manage them, and also I'm doing a lot of walking students through websites. So it's a lot of tough. Do you see this? Okay, and trying to describe where things are, and I'm like, okay, so it looks like this, and this is where you'll find it. And so anyway, it's been a bit of a challenge on that end too, because I'm used to being able to point to a screen.
Yeah, that's I can relate to that, because many a times I've had to walk my grandmother through websites on the phone, and that's also a tad difficult sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. I wonder, so we talked about the same thing when I was talking to Cash Fair recently, about how students might be, in some cases, actually more willing to take advantage of the services offered, because there's no fear of kind of crossing the boundary and physically being seen somewhere saying you need help. Do you find, like, how have the numbers been? Is there more or less people contacting the center?
Good question. I think our numbers are, that's a really good question, Jonathan. I think we're getting like our peak numbers when we normally would get peak numbers.
Gotcha.
It's tricky because people might be calling in at the same time and not getting through. So we may not be serving as many people as we might be able to do in person, because we have more people on. I know our emails and the chat have been very popular as well. Yeah, it's a good question. I think we're probably pretty close. The other thing is, a lot of people didn't realize we were still open.
Right. Yeah.
So people might not have reached out to us because they didn't realize.
Well, hopefully they will listen to this and know that you're still open and they can reach out.
We're here. You can call us.
Perfect. Yeah. It's,
yeah.
I think that's the struggle every department's had to navigate, right? When your job exists primarily when you're in a physical space that people can see, and they not even necessarily that they seek you out, but they just come across you. How do you then cope with people not being physically on campus and not being there to just bump into your office? I know we've had so many students who end up in the Department of Student Life asking something else, and then while they're there, they end up finding out that we also do this other thing, and that's how they get involved in our programming. And so losing that has certainly been a factor for us. And so we're having to try and adapt and create new programming options for students, because how do you still offer value when some people tie that value to physically being there and seeing you, right? So that's certainly a challenge and that's not going away at the end of this month. That's something we're going to have to work through over the course of the summer, I imagine. So
yeah, and it's a really good point, Jonathan, because I am at the front line. I watch people walk by. We're down the hall from Tim Hortons.
Oh yeah.
So
the busiest
we get a lot of walk by, and we're beside the Arc, right? Between those two, we get people, and I notice they look and they're like, oh, and I've had people walk in and go, so what do you do? So we're finding we have to reach out a lot more, and we are offering a lot more online workshops, and again, making sure students know about that, having a very big social media presence. We're really trying to pump that up, and we're running a virtual conference at the end of the month, Get Hired. I'll just do a little plug.
Oh yeah, tell me more about that.
Okay, so it's for third and fourth year students primarily, but if you are interested and you're not in third and fourth year, you can still check it out. And it's called Get Hired. So it's aimed at, we'll have amazing speakers and workshops. We're going to have breakout rooms. It's going to be interesting. We're learning a lot about running an online conference. I would say my colleagues are amazing. But the whole idea is it's to give you tips and tricks and tools and some connections to help with finding a job, and getting out there into the working world. So it runs the 28th, 29th, and 30th of April. And if you are interested, go to CLNX and look for Get Hired.
Perfect. Okay.
You do have to register. We are really restricting it because it is a Zoom conference, and we want people that are actually registered there. As much as we love everybody, we don't want any Zoom bombing.
Yes. So that was like a fascinating new challenge we had to learn how to deal with when in our first workshops were running. All of a sudden, all these high school kids show up, and that was, it's amazing. So it's amazing how much you have to create on the fly in this whole situation. So it's been so fascinating just to see things have to pivot so quickly and just start. Even if you don't know entirely how you're going to do something, you have to just start it and then tweak it as you go.
Exactly. And we're trying to learn best practices from other folks. There have been people, I think, now I might be wrong, I think it was Laurier has done this before.
Okay.
So we're trying to learn from them. So it's a lot of, what's really exciting is there's a lot of shared learning that's happening. So within UTSC, but then even beyond too, it's like, oh, okay, we've done this before. Okay, well, how did you do this? How did you manage this? So a lot of conversations happening, which is really exciting. So, I mean, although the situation is nothing but ideal, some really neat stuff is coming out of it. And, you know, looking at offerings and, hey, how can we maybe do this differently and maybe do things differently in the future? Who knows?
Definitely. Yeah, because I imagine so much of the things that we're shifting to, that's not just going to disappear when we get back to campus. Like if we find a good way to offer something to students, we're not going to just take it away. We're going to keep offering it that way. And so we might find out we have some great new services that they didn't exist last year, but next year, because of what we're dealing with right now, there'll be a great new service that we can offer.
Exactly. And learning what works better in person, what doesn't work better in person. So so it's all about trial and error, and and the students have been patient with us too, which I definitely appreciate because we're learning too. So but I feel like everybody really is, for the most part, working together. So we have staff, faculty, students, you know, and then outside partners as well. Like I really do feel like everybody has a greater flexibility, and they're, you know, the end goal is to move things forward and make things work, which is fantastic because, you know, everybody's going through enough as it is. So this is kind of nice when some things do go smoothly and we're like, hey, this is kind of cool.
Yeah. So I'm really curious to see how it works out when Get Started moves online, because I know that's what you guys are working towards. So I think that'll be a huge kind of test to see how we can shift programming to online, because that's one of our most attended things on campus every summer. It's kind of it's the big prep day for students before they start. And so that one, I'm sure we're going to get great attendance at. It'll just be a totally new way to deliver it.
Exactly. And it's neat because maybe it opens up some options for our international students.
Absolutely.
Who can't get here till, you know, basically school starts. So I don't know, there's some exciting developments happening as well. So, you know, trying to look things, it's not all negative. There's some cool things. I mean, after every major event like this, you've seen some incredible innovation spin out of it. So I don't know, hopefully we're on the cutting edge of some new things. So
yeah, I certainly hope so. And I imagine, you know, there will definitely be some great new stuff that sticks around at the end of this. But, you know, I'm also curious how the whole transition to working from home has affected you in terms of your personal life, because I know for me, I'm sitting at my desk, which at the end of the day, this computer gets replaced by my personal computer. And then I'm like, if I'm just browsing the internet at night, it's like, I still feel like I'm sitting at work and or, you know, like immediately to my right is my living room couch. So it's a bit of a transition where it's just different, you know? And so I'm curious how that transition has worked out for you.
Well, it's funny because, so as I mentioned before, I have two kids. One's 11, one's 15. And actually we're going to be having probably a bit of a virtual birthday party for the 11-year-old. She turns 12 next month. So that'll be interesting. So one of the things I've realized, and I've read quite a few articles on this as well, is developing a routine, because things are so upside down. So every morning I get up and I still, you know, have shower, have breakfast, and I stick to a bit of a routine in the morning. I have 2 workspaces because it depends what the girls need to do. They're doing virtual dance classes. So, yeah.
Fascinating.
Because
I've
one
seen
of my
virtual
daughters,
workouts, but that's
no,
new.
they do a virtual. So my younger daughter's a competitive dancer. So she said it's quite interesting because here she is doing her part of a group dance with everybody else also fitting anyway. So it's been quite funny to sort of hear her stories. She won't let me watch, but anyway, so those are better for her to do in the basement. So I have a desk down in the basement. That's my morning office so that I'm not waking them up because, of course, they've been sleeping in. And then I come up at noon and I switch to my afternoon office, which is here. AKA my bedroom. So yeah, and then the other thing is it does get noisier as my day goes on. And so the girls are always, wondering, okay, are you at work, Mom, or not? So I'm trying to, when at 5 o'clock, I finish my day, I leave my room, but I've been going to lots of, let's say, cocktail parties. So I have a standing one on Mondays, so I'll be going there after we chat. And it's great because I'm actually connecting with a friend of mine who lives she lives outside of Philadelphia. And I've seen more of her since this whole, lockdown than I have in years. So that's kind of cool.
That's not the first time I've heard something like that either.
Yeah.
That people are they're making more time to connect with people they wouldn't otherwise see now.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing the same thing with my family lives just in Oakville for the most part. And that's not a world away, but it's on a weeknight, it's a little hard to get over there when I'm coming from Scarborough. So we see each other now every weekend though. It's like a totally different experience.
Isn't that funny, eh? And I actually connected with my cousin and her 2 daughters on the weekend because we were there. They live in Scotland and we were there last summer. And so my 2 met her 2 and there was a real connection. So we had a call. So my boyfriend lives downtown. He joined us for Easter dinner virtually. I felt like if you watch The Big Bang Theory, when Sheldon created himself into a a robot.
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, I don't know how many Big Bang Theories fans there are. But anyway, so it was kind of like that because I had a laptop sitting at the end of our dining room table. And he joined us for Easter dinner.
Very cool.
We watched, there was a One World concert on Saturday. I don't know if you caught it. Lady Gaga coordinated it.
No, I didn't see that one, but I did see the Disney sing-along the other day.
Oh, yeah, we didn't see that one, but we watched the One World one together, and we both discovered that on Messenger that there's background effects you can do. So yeah, we started to get very distracted by that. But anyway, it's been kind of fun. So I've been trying to sort of add some fun to my day doing things like that. The other thing is I realized I'd been thinking about it, but it actually prompted me to move forward with adopting a cat. So we introduced a new cat to our world yesterday.
Wow. Okay. So fresh, very new.
Yes, very fresh. I've always had cats, but we haven't had one for a little while. So but I mean, we're home and so he's adding a new element. So I'm sure I will have some video calls that, a cat will be walking in front of me at some point. Yes, because he's quite social. And just trying to, though, to your point, Jonathan, is define my work day versus weekend, like end of day and weekends. I don't open my office computer. I only work off my personal one. So just trying to keep those boundaries. And I think if I was to suggest to anyone, really define your time if you can, because that really helps because you don't have the commuting, you don't have those transitions that you normally have, and trying to eat sort of normal meals. I mean, we're a house of snackers, which is not good. So trying to, eat regular meals as opposed to, constantly snack.
We're not going to be a house of snackers anymore because we already ate all the snacks. So there's no more snacks. So no more snacking for us.
Well, I keep saying to the girls, when it's gone, it's gone. And I have to be diligent about when I go to the grocery store because, it's funny. The snacks are the things that are plentiful right now.
Yes.
I'm like,
yes.
This is bad vegetables. I need vegetables. So I have to be diligent about that as well because it's too easy. They talk about the freshman 15 and now people are saying the COVID-19.
I've heard that as well. So I've been lucky so far. I feel like I've not had enough physical activity, but somehow I've not gained anything. So
you're lucky. Yeah. We're doing okay. And I'm trying to, get out for walks. And my kids actually went for a run this afternoon. I'm like, okay, just, stay away from people. And so they're pretty good. So good. It's been an interesting transition. And, it's funny because, there are some days I'm like, gosh, I could kill for, just chilling out with a book in a coffee shop. But it has been kind of fun hanging out with the girls. And I think we're all discovering new things about each other. So.
And I think that's happening to like a lot of people where I was talking to a student the other day and they were talking about like, they never journaled before and now they journal and they love it all of a sudden. And all these people are finding all these new hobbies they didn't know they had because you're kind of forced to adapt. I mean, it's great that your daughter's still able to do her dance practice because in my head, all team sports were basically off the table. Like you can't go play volleyball, you can't play soccer, it can't happen, but you can still do dance practice. I had never thought about how that could work out. So that's great that she's still able to do that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but obviously she misses the social aspect of it, but you know what? At least she's, getting to do something that she really enjoys. And, I'm considering picking up my flute again. I used to play a lot and I'm like, okay, you're at home. You have no excuses. So, but also the big thing too, though, is I think there's also a lot of pressure as well to, do all these things and be terribly productive. I'd say the other thing is make sure you're allowing yourself downtime and lazy time and just, if you want to sit and watch Netflix, then do it.
Oh yeah. Right? So my downtime plan during this whole situation is I went through the Oscar nominated Best Picture list from last year all the way back through 1977 or something like that. And I picked out every movie on the list. Oh, I know.
1977, Star Wars.
Yeah. So I've already seen them all. So my wife hasn't. So I'm very confused.
Okay.
I'm kind of surprised. How did we get married? She hasn't seen Star Wars, but hey, she's got other good qualities. So,
all right, that's good.
Yes, absolutely. So anyway, I got this list together of, 145 movies for us to watch that at least we know are going to be great movies, even if they're not our genre, they're all going to be good. So, some of them are whole trilogies. So, I've seen Star Wars, but I haven't seen the Godfather trilogy, which a lot of people get like angry when they find out you haven't seen The Godfather.
Okay, so. I haven't seen it either.
Okay,
and I'm dating an Italian who hasn't seen them. So wow. I know what?
The world is upside down.
I know, right? So eventually maybe we'll virtually watch it together.
There you go.
Knows? Yeah.
I don't know if it's on Netflix, but there's also, so many different streaming platforms now.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It'll be somewhere.
You can find it.
Yeah,
it's not a problem.
We'll find it.
Oh, I'm sure. That's fun. Yeah. And you know what? Even if you only get through a few, it's like, okay, I've always wanted to watch this. So
yeah, exactly.
And then it creates some structure too. It's like, okay, so instead of going out and meeting friends for drinks, it's like, or going out to a movie, it's like, okay, this is the movie we're going to. And you set yourself up with popcorn and, pour some pop on the floor so it's sticky and,
Yeah, get that real movie theater experience.
Exactly. Get your wife to sit behind you in a chair and kick your seat.
Do I just shred a $50 bill and pretend like it's...
Yes.
A night at the movies.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Or put that $50 bill in a jar so when you really can go out, there's your movie money.
That is the plan. So yeah, it's certainly a lot of people are going to save a lot of money during this whole experience.
Yeah, but you're spending it on, I don't know about you, but I'm spending it on other things like takeout.
That is true. Yeah. So I'm a pretty strict budgeter, so I've just reallocated some money. But I was talking to some colleagues today, like the amount of miles I'm putting on my car is almost nothing compared to what I normally do. Like I'm going to have saved like $200 a month in gas by the end of this.
Easily. Yeah, easily. I actually have to, top up my gas tank. I'm like, what? And I mean, it's been, I think, over a month since I put any gas in my car.
Yeah. And the last time I put gas in, it was $29. So it's like, I feel like I'm 16 again trying to fill up my car. Wow.
I know, it's kind of nice, eh? The other thing is little things like I still have snow tires on my car. I'm like, I guess I should take those off.
I have to do that, I realized. So I don't know when or where I'm going to get that done.
A lot of places are still doing that. I don't know exactly, but I have to reach out to mine and find out how that works because I'm like, I probably should do that because it's not great. I
guess there's no rush though if you're not driving anywhere either, right? So
that's true. Yeah. The drives are all pretty short.
Yeah, the grocery store isn't so far away. So
no, it's in fact, one time I decided to combine grocery shopping and exercise, and I walked to the grocery store. I made the mistake of choosing to buy potatoes, but other than that, it was a workout. It was a workout.
I bet. So I think this Thursday, maybe it's Wednesday or Thursday this week, will be 3 weeks since I've gone to the grocery store. Like we stopped at big time so we could just really isolate. But it's getting to be that time. We're making all kinds of odds and ends for meals now. So I think we got to hit the store.
Yeah, it's true.
And like I said, no snacks. So we really got to stock up.
Yeah. and then spread them out over time.
That's right.
But I mean, it's actually kind of a good thing because a friend of mine calls this time the Pantry Cleaner because you start to go, hey, what is in here? Mm-hmm. And I've discovered a few things. I'm like, I forgot I had this mix or I had this. And one of my daughters made a cake. She's like, Mom, I want to make a cake. I'm like, well, look in the cupboard. I'm sure there's something. And there was cake mix. Off she went. So just
and
random.
So it's and I've found myself now I'm making all these meals I never would have made before because they're things that like I thought I would try, never got around to it, and hopefully most people are going to become expert level chefs by the end of this.
Well, it's really fun. So in our team, we've been doing baking on Fridays as a team. So it started, our senior manager, Marg, she makes amazing scones. So she offered to give us all a baking lesson. So we did that on Good Friday, and it was a lot of fun and a lot of laughs. And you see people in their kitchens, and then people saying, "Hold on, I did this. What? Why isn't this working?" Anyway, so it's been a laugh. And then last Friday, another colleague, we made blueberry muffins. Apparently, I'm leading a shortbread one this Friday, so I got to get myself together. And it's been a lot of fun because you're getting new recipes, but also you're connecting with your colleagues in a different way. So that's been a really fun spin.
Now, I wasn't planning on having dinner for a few more hours, but I'm getting hungry now. So thank you very much. And I don't think I have blueberry mix, so I don't know what I'm going to do now.
You don't need blueberry mix. I can send you the recipe.
Oh, look at that. It's all the sharing of ideas that happens during COVID-19. Well,
I think there's going to be some COVID cookbooks coming out.
100%. You know how many Instagram accounts are probably started from this? People just posting their cooking. So which really just makes up for all the travel accounts that can't post anything right now.
Exactly.
It's trade-off, net zero Instagram accounts. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This has been great. And I don't want to keep you here forever. Any final tips that you might want to say to students who are struggling through exams right now?
So first of all, you're almost done. You're in your home stretch. You can do it. Just be good to yourselves. Be kind. Give yourselves breaks. If you can, right now it's a sunny day out there. Get out, enjoy some sunshine in a safe way. But know that we're here to support you and that if we work together, we'll get through this.
Okay. Once again, thank you so much and
You're
have
welcome.
A wonderful day.
Thanks, Jonathan.